If you're looking for a behind-the-scenes insight into music, you've come to the right place. Remember to subscribe to be notified of new content.
In 2016, I started this journey to finding out what goes on behind the music recorded and released by Australian singer-songwriters. I quickly learned of the struggles faced by many in this competitive industry. With the launch of ledofficial.com, I started supporting Aussie talent in promoting their music. It wasn't easy. The only guarantee I could offer my clients was that I would get the word out to media sources about their upcoming release. Some picked up community radio interviews, others gigs in live music venues. Many have told me they feel like a human jukebox when performing live, because the public seem more interested in hearing songs that they know rather than something new. 4 years later, I'm here with an independent insight into what happens behind the scenes.
This is Behind the Music with Ellie D.
Hey, this is Matt Jogao, and I'm in Dunedin, New Zealand. From Dunedin, New Zealand, home of the best Americana music. And I'm wearing sunglasses, not so much for the rock and roll aspect, although that is part of it, but it's actually because the sun is in my eyes. The biggest misconception for me was that signing to a record label would solve all your problems, and obviously it was a step in the process, and we benefited from it, but you know, we still continued to work and tour, and nothing really got easier just because we signed to a label. So yeah, that was a bit of an eye-opener, because I remember thinking, like, if we could sign to a record label, our problems would be solved, right? But it didn't work like that. Family and friends for me, you know, pretty standard response, I guess, from most. But yeah, family and friends, my band, because yeah, you will need support. It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig, but my mother has been my biggest supporter since I was a little kid, since I was 5 years old, playing piano. So yeah, I'll lean on her for support, advice, and yeah, she's someone I can speak to about pretty much anything in regards to music, and yeah, so you do need someone like that. Well, a social media platform, I guess it would be Facebook. It would be Facebook. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have my issues with Facebook, but that would probably be the best platform in regards to social media. Obviously, if we're talking outside of that, then radio has been wonderful. Community radio has been wonderful to my band and my music. Shout out to all the community radio there, especially PBS, Triple R in Melbourne. Those guys are wonderful. 2SER, FBI in Sydney. I could go on. Anyways, yeah, radio, and I guess Facebook in terms of social media. Although things like Spotify and stuff are picking up now. I write the songs usually on acoustic, and from there I send them along to Andy, who's co-produces the records with me, and we sort of go over the idea about how we think the song should go, and sometimes it's obvious, and sometimes we agree, and sometimes we have sort of differing opinions. But one of the important parts of the recording process that I think people don't realize is pre-production. So before an album, for any song or given songs, we'll get together in a room, practice space, rehearsal space, studio, and we'll go over with the band what everybody's doing, so we sort of have an understanding. The beauty of technology is that I can send MP3s to the band, so we all hit the practice space with a knowledge of what we're going to play, which is really cool. So people sort of come with their ideas, we talk it through. It doesn't take long. We're generally on the same page, been working together for a while now. Then from there, I continue to sort of put things together at home on my laptop, working with little ideas. And we go into the studio and we lay it down. So, you know, it's either live off the floor, everybody at once, or sometimes we break it up a little bit, or we might bring in guest musicians if we're talking fiddle or female backing vocals and things like that. Although Katja sings on most, but we used the Weeping Willows recently for a track called Too Far to Go, and it's nice to keep it interesting with other musicians. From there, releasing a track. Okay, so when you finish the track, whether it's a single or it's for an album, let's say it's part of an album, you'll need about a lead time going into the release of that record, say it's your first single. So the album will, depending if you've got a record label or distribution, or how much you're spending in regards to the promotion of your song and your album, will depend if you have a publicist or a radio plugger, and those people need lead time to get your music to press. So let's say for a record you might need 3-6 months lead time, and that single will go out via your label or via your publicist to press, so that they can start writing about it, and it will go to radio, so that hopefully they start spinning it, and that starts the ball rolling. You got your socials going, and people start to get hopefully excited about your music, and from there a track will come out, and you have to continue to publicize that on your social media, do interviews, hopefully touring, and that's pretty much it. Obviously you can do a music video as well, if you have the budget, which is pretty important these days. There's a lot of social media, it works best to release a song with a video, so if you're going to do that, then you have to start that ball rolling early too. So there's a lot. That's going to depend on a few factors, I guess. One is what style of music you are, the reputation of your band or yourself as an artist, what city you're trying to play in. Is it your hometown? Are you an international act? But it can be difficult. We have a booking agent, which helps open some doors, but predominantly I believe it's word of mouth, and we've been lucky to have a few festivals approach us, and then there are some venues and some festivals you play who are sort of affiliated with other venues and festivals, so it sort of spreads that way. So the more you get out there and play, the easier it is to continue to play and to book in shows. Well, for my music, it's never really been a goal or something that's important to be played on commercial radio. We've managed to forge out our own spot and a career out of being supported by community radio. So that's been a wonderful thing. Commercial radio, yeah, I've had some airplay, but we've never been spun on high rotation on commercial radio. So I think if your goal is to be the next Taylor Swift, then that would be pretty important. But as it stands, we do okay with community radio. Well, if we don't support Australian music, there won't be any Australian music, and that would be an absolute travesty and a tragedy. Australian music does a lot for society in general, for the culture. It's a unique element, and it's a big part of being Australian. I can think of legendary Australian bands from every decade that shaped the culture of Australia. So it's definitely, I can't overstate how important it is to support Australian music and the arts in general. As we saw with the bushfires, the arts give back. The arts give back. How many benefit shows were there? The arts are the first thing to give back. So do your best. Go out and see a show. go out and do it. Go out to a show, go check out a band, and get amongst it. It's a wonderful experience, wonderful thing to be a part of. There's going to be ups and downs being part of a music scene, being part of a music business. It's not all roses, but the rewards are magnificent. Being part of something, being part of a scene, being part of that community is a great feeling. And you can do that by being a roadie or a sound engineer or in press or obviously a musician, director, making music videos. So there are lots of ways to get into the Australian music scene. You don't have to sling a guitar over your shoulder, although that helps. So yeah, I would just suggest get into it. If you're interested, get down to a show and support it, and pretty soon you'll find yourself a part of it.
Want more? Check out the Behind the Music with Ellie D podcast, available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.